around the world, the chance to experience real magic and the awfully big adventure that comes with a trip to one of the famous mouse's houses is exactly what dreams are made of. So join us as we explore the endless possibilities of that great big beautiful world of Disney as we travel to the magic.
Hello and welcome to episode 9 of Travel to the Magic. And I'm going to start this episode with a question that I'm sure every Disney fan around the globe has asked themselves at one time or another. And that is there one specific ride or show or attraction that you want to ride, see or do before you finish your lifespan? I know that sounds a little bit morbid, but you know what I'm saying. For example, for me, Big Thunder Mountain is my favourite ride of all time. And so therefore, to get to ride Big Thunder Mountain at every single Disney park in the world and any new iterations of the ride that materialise in the future years would be an ultimate Disney dream for me to come true. For some Disney fans, it may be riding the various versions of Space Mountain in different Disney parks, or maybe it would be to meet and greet every single possible Disney character at every single Disney location around this big blue marble that you could possibly see again in your set time span. But I think there is probably one goal every single Disney fan wishes they could achieve, and that is to be able to visit every single Disney park that is possible to go and visit. That includes all of the parks at Walt Disney World, the 2 parks at Disneyland in California, the 2 parks in Paris, the 2 parks in Tokyo, the single park in Shanghai, and the single park in Hong Kong Disneyland. And of course, any future parks that may be opening over the next 2, 3, 5, 10, 15, who knows, years ahead. But there are 2 people in the world that I know of who have taken up this challenge to visit every single Disney park, but have set themselves the challenge of doing it in less than 80 hours. One Disney fan did it as a challenge to themselves, and one did it in order to beat a Guinness World Record. Now, besides that one achievement that we're going to be talking about in this episode of Travel to the Magic, the Disney company actually has amassed 8 other Guinness World Records over its lifetime as well. And these include Walt Disney World, as of 2017, took the record for showing the same film in the same location every day for 35 years. That's right, most movies only get released in theatres for a couple of months. But Disney World has been showing the same film in the same theatre every single day in Epcot's French Pavilion since October the 1st, 1982. That's the 18-minute film Impressions de France. Of course, that theatre closed in 2019 to make way for a new attraction and film the Beauty and the Beast sing-along. And so even though both of the movies are showing in rotation, that world record title could now be up for grabs. But a title that the Magic Kingdom at Disney World currently holds is probably unlikely to be beaten, well, certainly for a little while, and that is the Guinness World Record in 2018 for being the most visited theme park on the planet, with 20.859 million visitors in that year. And although technically in 2019 the park attendance went up by around 100,000 people, the records were not updated, and of course COVID came into place not long after, and it's unlikely that that figure is going to be beaten for a few more years. Now, as we know, at pretty much all of the Disney theme parks around the world, there is a central spoked hub, and at the centre of that hub is the castle attraction that we all love and adore, whichever park we're going to around the world. And Cinderella's castle holds its own Guinness World Record for being the tallest theme park palace in the world. The North Tower reaches 189 feet into the sky, earning itself an official title. But although the castle holds the title since 2006, there is actually another Disney park with an even taller castle that could contend for the record should it want to apply. And that's the enchanted storybook castle at Shanghai Disney Resort that tops out at 196 feet. That's just 7 feet taller than the current record holder. But there is one record I think that the Disney World Management Company probably don't want to admit to holding, and that is having spent a record-setting amount of money to build a single ride. Animal Kingdom's Expedition Everest may not be the tallest roller coaster in the world, but it does hold a Guinness World Record for the cost it took to build it. When it opened in 2006, after 6 years of research and construction, its total build cost was $100 million. But again, even though this coaster holds that record to date, Universal Orlando's Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure could be a contender, as that cost a whopping $300 million. Now, do you remember a couple of weeks ago there was a lady who decided to jump ship and try and grab herself a cucumber whilst riding the Land Pavilion attraction at Epcot? Well, possibly she was just trying to bag herself a prize, because the sun-kissed experimental prototype Community of Tomorrow attraction in 2016 won a world record for the largest cucumber. That's right. Horticulturalists at Disney grew a 6-foot-tall, 2,075-pound cucumber plant that grew up vertically, earning it that lofty title. But the awards didn't stop there, because in 2006, they also won the record for the most cucumbers harvested in a single planting year, with 2,563 being that record-breaking total. And those same horticulturalists also won in that year the title for the most tomatoes harvested in a single planting year, with a record-breaking 32,194 fruits borne. And before you think that all the titles have been achieved at Walt Disney World, there is one award that they have not been able to achieve, and that is the award, the title, for being the most Instagrammed location in the world. Disneyland in California in 2017 snapped up that record and still holds it to this date. And let's face it, it is really difficult not to buy a Dole Whip, or maybe give Mickey a high five, or sip a Starbucks coffee in front of that Sleeping Beauty castle without taking a photograph. And although Tokyo Disneyland, Walt Disney's Magic Kingdom, and Disneyland's second park, Disney California Adventure, were also on the list, it doesn't look like Walt's original park is going to be giving up that title anytime soon. Now, I'm sure 7 minutes into this podcast, you're actually thinking, what has any of this got to do with travelling to the Magic? Well, you may or may not have read back in 2016 about a gentleman called Christopher Wing, who successfully sped through multiple time zones on planes and trains to visit every Disney park in the world in less than 80 hours. Starting his epic Disney park adventure on the Mr. Toad's Wild Ride at Disneyland Resort in Anaheim, hopping onto a red-eye flight to Walt Disney World before heading towards Paris, Hong Kong Disneyland, and Tokyo Disney Resort, finally ending his journey back at the Disneyland Resort. All of this was just a bit of fun for this gentleman, actually achieving the journey in 5 hours less than his original goal time. Now, you may have noticed that one park was missed off that list, and that's because Shanghai Disneyland Resort in Japan wasn't yet open. So fast forward 2 more years, and an adventurous young lady took up the mantle to visit every single Disney park in the world in less than 80 hours, but she did it as a Guinness World Record attempt. Disney superfan and Canadian Lindsay Nemeth is an avid blogger and says that travel is her ultimate passion, especially covering wide distances in short spans of time. So this challenge probably wasn't as big a challenge to her as it may be to you or I. According to her official blog, ambleandpearl.com, it was during a brainstorming session that she came across an article by the Guinness World Record, who at that time in 2017 were looking for someone to set the record for the fastest time to visit all the Disney parks. And this was like a no-brainer to her. So even before she'd finished reading the rules that were required in order to be able to compete, she decided to go ahead and do it. Her route, though, would see her visit all 12 Disney parks across the world, starting at Disneyland in California, heading to Walt Disney World in Orlando, then to Disneyland Paris, Shanghai Disneyland, making it to this itinerary, Hong Kong Disneyland, and finishing up at Tokyo Disney Resort. Now, because this was going to be an official Guinness World Record attempt, she had to follow some very, very specific rules. She would need to do at least one ride in every single park. She'd need to get 2 signed witness statements to say that she'd been to that park. Video footage was required along with photography. And she had to give a GPS reading at each of the parks as well to confirm that she had actually been there. All of this had to be done in less than 80 hours. This was what was required to have a shot at the competitive title. Basically, no dilly-dallying of any kind in the parks. In, ride, sign, out, done. Now, some of you may think that this is a bit of a crazy challenge, and yes, to a degree, it is quite insane. Serious levels of planning is required to carry it out. Of course, you need to make sure that there are no delays in your travel plans whatsoever, and you have to be quite comfortable with sleeping on a plane because there were no hotels involved in this record attempt whatsoever. And last week on the Clubhouse app, which if you're not familiar with this application, it's a live audio discussion app available on iOS and Android devices where you can talk with like-minded people about any topic you like around the world. I just happened to discuss Disney with people from the 4 corners of the globe. And on the Disney Addicts Club room last week, we were talking about this specific challenge. But the general consensus from the Disney fans around the world was that this was a bit of a crazy thing to do because you're not going to really be able to enjoy every single bit of magic that these parks have to offer. And unless you've already been to these parks before, it's a bit of a wasted journey. Well, to a degree, I agree with these opinions because if you're going to travel to Tokyo Disney Resort, for example, not only do you generally want to take in the magic of the Disney resorts, but also take in some of the culture of the country that you have traveled all of that distance to go to. But I guess in this situation, it's a little bit like taking part in the Olympics that are happening right now in Tokyo, and that you go there with a goal in mind, and that, in this instance, is to be able to travel around all 12 Disney parks in less than 80 hours to win a global title. So yes, in real terms, if you are going to travel to Disney parks, spend the time, enjoy the magic, take in the culture, see the sights, and make your money well worth spent. But I do admire what this lady was able to achieve because I think it is probably something deep down we'd all love to do. Visit every single Disney park. Maybe not in 80 hours, but be able to travel the globe and take in this amazing, amazing world of Disney that is available to us. So I suppose the next question is, did she achieve the challenge and did she win that world record? Well, of course she did, and she did it in an amazing time of 75 hours and 6 minutes. That's just 6 minutes faster than the other gentleman did it back in 2016, and he didn't visit all of the 12 parks. He only made it to 11 because, well, one was closed. We'll forgive him for that. But ultimately, she managed to do this in just a 6 minute faster time. And so for the second half of this podcast this week, I have put together a bit of a rough itinerary plan that I might do should I consider attempting this world record to beat this young lady. Now, I'd like to point out that I haven't spent a huge amount of time on this. I was more intrigued at how it could be done and roughly how much it might cost to do it. Plus also, I was kind of interested to know which single ride I would choose at each park to do should I be undertaking this kind of challenge, and it might be something that you will find interesting for yourself to consider whilst we're talking through this itinerary. So first up, I decided to do a completely different route to that young lady, and I was going to start at the Walt Disney World Resort in Orlando. My thinking behind this was that I could nail 4 parks in a very short period of time, potentially getting rid of a large chunk of Disney property in the shortest period of time. Plus, also, I do tend to like my sleep, and therefore a little bit more air travel time to catch up on my Zeds was another factor in my thinking. So my initial flight, my London Heathrow to Orlando International Airport flight, actually takes place the day before this challenge begins, so that I can have a nice, resting, relaxing night in my Disney hotel. So I'm absolutely ready to go the following morning with the challenge. Now, at this point, let me just tell you that I have hypothetically decided that none of these parks around the world will require me to pre-register my entrance to their parks, and therefore I can hop merrily like we used to do before all of this global pandemic was upon us. So, park number 1 for me on this challenge is Disney's Animal Kingdom. Now, while I absolutely adore Avatar's Flight of Passage, the average queue time for this ride is 170 minutes, and I haven't got time to go on it. So I'm going to nip over to Expedition Everest, Legend of the Forbidden Mountain, whose average wait time is only 33 minutes, and it's a really cool roller coaster. Anybody who out there knows me knows I love a good thrill ride. So this is a great attraction to start off this adventure with before heading over to my second park of 12, and that is the Disney Hollywood Studios, where again I really would love to ride Slinky Dog Dash. That has a top end wait time of 73 minutes. That's not going to happen. And my second choice ride as well, bit shocking, but Rock and Roller Coaster's average wait time is 60 minutes. That's probably going to be a bit too long for this journey. So let's nip down another 10 minutes to the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror, where I'm not going to be able to sleep on that ride. So if I am feeling a little bit tired, this is the ride to go on to with an average wait time of 50 minutes. Now, while with my third choice, I won't be jumping out of the boat to go and grab any fruit that's hanging from the tree, I do feel that for this challenge, we need to go and pay homage to a previous Guinness World Record holder. So therefore, let's go and ride Living with the Land, which has an average wait time of 15 minutes. This is good. Gives us a chance to wander around the park, maybe just pick up a drink or a snack on our way out towards the Magic Kingdom, where for our fourth and final leg of the Orlando part of this trip, I'm going to ride the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, which may seem a bit crazy because it has the longest average queue time of any ride at Disney's Magic Kingdom of 79 minutes, but I kind of feel like this is the park that I want to ride this roller coaster at. Although it's at Shanghai Disneyland as well, I have a different ride for that park in mind that I want to do, and therefore this is my only opportunity to ride this attraction. Now, what I should mention maybe at this point is that the airport to park, park to airport transfers are being priced as a private car hire instead of using the shared transfer services or any other kind of option that may be available in the different countries, only because it would be the quickest option for this challenge. Having said that, it is something you should consider if you're going on a normal Disney holiday to any of the destinations around the globe. These private transfers are not only safe and secure, they are quite often cost effective, very competitive against other standard types of transfers, and it gives you the peace of mind knowing that someone will be waiting for you at the airport to pick you up and drop you off at your hotel, and vice versa on your return journey. Just something to have in mind when you're planning your next magical holiday. But back to this crazy itinerary, and we're on our way to Orlando International Airport, where we are going to take our first long-haul flight over to Charles de Gaulle in Paris. Now, this, unfortunately, we couldn't do in a one direct flight. We're having to stop off at London's Heathrow for an hour and a half. That's not too bad. Full flight time from Orlando to Charles de Gaulle is around 11 hours in total. That's taking into consideration the layover time as well. And therefore, we'll be in to Disneyland Paris, theoretically, on day 2 of our adventure. And so, at Disneyland Paris Resort, I have purchased a one-day 2-park hopper ticket, which allows me to go back and forward from the 2 parks. We're going to start off in the Disneyland Paris Park on my all-time favourite attraction. That is Big Thunder Mountain, which has an average wait time of 47 minutes, which is not too bad considering something I should have told you right at the beginning of this journey was I've planned this entire itinerary around the early part of December, around my birthday, and Disneyland Paris tends to be quite chilly in December, and therefore I don't particularly want to queue too long for Big Thunder Mountain because it's all outdoor queuing. It's very chilly when you're queuing there, and the ride itself is the wildest ride in the wilderness, but you quite often get a bit of chilly air on the face whilst you're going around that roller coaster track. And so off the ride I come with nice red rosy cheeks and head over to the Walt Disney Studios Park, which is currently undergoing quite a major renovation and expansion plan, so there are not that many attractions for me to choose from at the moment, but I am going to choose one that is exclusive to that park, and that is Crush's Coaster. And the good thing about this ride is there are two queues. The standard queue, which has an average wait time of 59 minutes, or the queue that we're going to go into, which is the single rider line, which has an average wait time of 50 minutes, saving ourselves 9 all-important minutes to get ourselves back to our private car and on the way back to Charles de Gaulle to fly to our next destination. Now, I've been a little clever with this next leg of the journey. We are in fact flying from Charles de Gaulle in central Paris all the way over to Shanghai's Pudong International Airport. But there is a layover at Hong Kong International in between, and it's a 6-hour layover. So I've decided to take advantage of this little extra time we have to spend to visit Hong Kong Disneyland. And it's at this park that I'm going to ride a very unique iteration of a popular attraction that we've all probably ridden, whether we've been to one of the US parks or over to Paris. But in this park, it's called Mystic Manor. You may know of it by another name, Phantom Manor or Haunted Mansion. And because it's such a unique attraction to Hong Kong Disneyland, it would seem silly to travel all this way and not ride something original with a wait time average of 13 minutes. Which, of course, is fantastic because we're fitting this park into our 6-hour layover window, which is part of our overall 20-hour flight time from Paris, France to Shanghai, China. Now, for both Hong Kong Disneyland and Shanghai Disneyland, both being single park-only resorts, I only needed a one-day ticket for each one of those, and at Shanghai Disneyland, this was a place to ride yet another original iteration of a classic ride that is done in a very modern way, and that is to ride the Pirates of the Caribbean Battle for the Sunken Treasure. This version of this ride cannot be done in any other Disney park around the world, and it has quite a short average queue time of around 26 minutes, making it a perfect choice for a short stop in Shanghai before we head back to Pudong Airport and we head over to our next major international airport, that is Narita in Tokyo. And with no layovers on this short flight of 2 hours and 50 minutes, we're in to the Tokyo Disney Resort. Now, there are two parks here, the Tokyo Disneyland Park and the Tokyo Disney Sea Park, each of which require a single entrance ticket for. So we've had to buy two for this part of the journey. And in Tokyo's version of the Magic Kingdom, I think we're going to have ourselves a zippity-doo-dah time by riding Splash Mountain with an average wait time of 23 minutes. That's pretty good for this park, before heading over to Tokyo Disney Sea and riding a very unique attraction that, again, is only available at this park. And that is the Journey to the Center of the Earth, again with an average wait time of 23 minutes. And if there are any of these rides that we're talking about today on this podcast that you are unfamiliar with, don't worry, because in previous and in future podcast episodes, we do and have taken deep dive delves into individual parks so you can learn more about the unique rides and attractions that they have to offer. For example, we did Shanghai Disney a couple of episodes ago. Totally worth listening to when you have a moment or two free to listen to that one. And so you'll be pleased to know we're on to the last long-haul flight of our adventure, and that takes us from Narita International Airport in Tokyo over to LAX, that world-famous Los Angeles, Californian airport, where we will, of course, be heading to our final destination and the original birthplace of magic, that is Disneyland in Anaheim. And we're going to start off at Disney's California Adventure, where I want to pick up some fun from my Pixar pal friends at the Radiator Springs Racer Ride, which has an average wait time of 75 minutes. That's quite a long time to wait for an attraction, but this one is totally well worth waiting for before we head over to our final park, our 12th park on this virtual fantasy Guinness World Record attempt that we're doing on the podcast. And we head into Disneyland Resort. And I've decided for our final ride of this adventure to be the Jungle Cruise. Now, I don't know if I'm swayed because of the new movie that's just coming out and having watched Dwayne Johnson walk around Disneyland at the weekend, but I also think it's an original attraction. It was one that Walt put a lot of his life and soul into, and therefore it would be rather fitting to ride this attraction on our last day. It has an average wait time of 13 minutes, which is rather good, as it gives us some time to put our feet up and calculate how much this has cost us and whether we've actually managed to achieve the 80-hour target or not. Now, on the time front, this is a more complicated thing to work out because obviously we didn't factor in travel time between the airports and the parks. We didn't add in any time to use the facilities or to maybe get ourselves some food or drink, or even to pick up a bit of merchandising like a little pin from every single park that we went to. What I can tell you is the flight time for this itinerary, including layovers, was 50 hours. That leaves us 30 hours spare from the 80-hour target. And if you divide that 30 hours by the 12 parks, that gives us an average of 2 hours and 30 minutes of magical time at each one of those Disney destinations. And so therefore, I think we would have had enough time not only to ride those attractions with the average wait times that we spoke about, but also time to transfer back and forth from the airports to the parks, and also to do all those other little things we spoke about just a moment or two ago. Of course, that's not an ideal Disney normal holiday. You'd want to spend hours and hours, days and days in your favorite Disney parks. But for the purpose of this experiment, I do think we would have managed it within the 80 hours, possibly breaking the Guinness World Record ourselves. And to finish this off, how much would this have cost us? Well, you might be surprised, because bear in mind we had no hotel costs whatsoever. It was all flights and transfers and tickets only. This itinerary would have cost me only $4,390 Great British pounds. That's around 6,000 US dollars. Not too bad when you consider how many long-haul flights were involved, how many tickets were required, considering at Walt Disney World we had to buy 7-day tickets to get ourselves the better price, and of course adding in those average airport transfer fees as well. And obviously that total is priced from a live booking system, and if you wanted to do this crazy journey yourself, you may find prices are different depending on the time of year that you want to go, where you want to travel from, and of course the route that you want to take. If you did want to do this, please by all means get in touch with me at flymickey.com. We would love to help you plan your chance to beat a Guinness World Record. Let us make that magic happen for you. And that brings us to the end of episode 9 of Travel to the Magic. Hopefully you've enjoyed this episode, a little bit of a different look at the world of Disney. As always, we love to hear from you with your ideas on content you'd like to hear on this podcast. Drop us a message at Another Disney Podcast on any of their social media platforms. And all that is left for me to say is have yourself an amazing, world-beating, magical day.